Chapter 3. The Shadow That Watches. Below, the depths of Vuren. The ancient halls groaned beneath the surface of Vuren, stone corridors carved by forgotten hands, etched with half-buried Sith runes that pulsed with residual energy. Time had worn them smooth, but the dark side still lingered like dust, clinging to every breath. Darth Malvex walked in silence. His long, black and crimson robes moved like liquid shadow across the rough floor. At his side, a thin-bladed saber hung dormant, though the air around him crackled faintly with power. Each step echoed softly, as if the ancient stone recognized him, as if it remembered what he was. He had come in pursuit of a Sith relic, an obsidian shard said to be infused with the memories of Darth Varadine, one of the great heretics of the pre-Republic Sith. The shard had been buried within a volcanic vault by Varadine's own disciples, protected by ritual traps and veils of disorientation. Malvex had deciphered the tomb's coordinates from a broken holocron half a decade ago. And yet, as he descended through the black tunnels beneath Vuren, his thoughts were elsewhere. The Force trembled. At first, he dismissed it as interference. Vuren's surface above pulsed with fear, constant, chaotic, emotional static from the fighting pits and the children bred for carnage. The planet itself was an open wound, and its pain sang to the dark side. But this was different. Sharper, focused, deliberate. Not a scream in the Force, but a cut. Clean, deep, unnatural. He paused mid-step, hand resting lightly on the wall, feeling it vibrate. Not from the relic. From above. He closed his eyes. And there, like a blade slicing through mist, came the presence. Young, inhumanly still, not feral, not flailing. Precise. A fault line beneath a child's skin. "Who are you?" he thought, frowning. The darkness pulsed in response, not with an answer, with awareness. The boy had felt him too. Above, the pits of Vuren. Kyle's hands were stained again, not with blood, but with old iron dust from the weights and walls of the training yard. His fingers moved along the chipped hilt of his blade as he stood at the edge of the pit, his body sore from endless sparring. His tunic stuck to his skin, soaked in sweat. Bruises bloomed across his ribs like sick flowers. But he barely noticed. He had just downed 3 opponents. Quick, clean. No cheers from the other children. Only silence. He'd stopped drawing noise a long time ago. He had become something else in their eyes, a tool, a ghost, a certainty. Now, as the others limped back to their cages, Kyel knelt in the sand alone and closed his eyes, and the Force stirred. The whispers had returned with a new clarity, not from his mind, not from memory, from outside. A second presence, deep, buried, enormous, like a dark star below the surface. It did not speak with words, but it listened, and in that stillness, Kyel felt seen. His heartbeat slowed. He pressed a hand to the ground. Heat radiated from the stone beneath, not from the arena fires, from far deeper. He felt it now, not just emotion, but power, wound into the layers of the rock, carved by ancient hands. Someone else was down there, not just watching, searching. And the Force whispered, "Soon, below, the crypt of echoes." Malvex entered the vault chamber. The relic hovered above a pool of cooled lava, encased in a protective shell of cracked obsidian. The air was heavy, thick with spiritual residue. Red sigils glowed faintly on the walls, illuminating old bones and blackened armor fragments. He stepped toward the shard. But then, pain. Not his own. It stabbed through the Force like lightning. A child's body breaking. A strike to the ribs. a small hand closing around a chipped blade. Not despair, not fury. Focus. He turned from the relic. A presence bloomed in his mind, not trained, not shaped, but impossibly disciplined, contained. A boy fighting without hate, surviving without fear. I did not come for you, Malvex said aloud to the shadows, but perhaps you were always part of it. He closed his eyes again, saw the ripple in the force, not as chaos, but as a thread. It led upward, into the pit, into blood, into silence. I see you now. He turned away from the relic. It could wait. The true find was not buried. It was alive. The arena stank of smoke and blood. Torchlight flickered across carved stone columns and rusting metal railings, casting long shadows over the sand-streaked pit floor. The crowd had gathered in force tonight. Warlords, gang captains, off-world brokers, and the ever-hungry pit regulars. They leaned over railings and stomped their boots in unison, demanding death. At the center of it all stood Kyel, still, breath steady, blade in hand. Across from him, his opponent lay in the sand, unmoving, moaning through a broken jaw, one eye already swelling shut. The crowd roared for the finish. Kyel did nothing. He didn't even look at them. His eyes were locked on his opponent, but there was no malice in them. Only the quiet certainty of a winter storm, present, powerful, and beyond persuasion. The crowd began to chant, "Ash Blade! Ash Blade! Ash Blade!" The announcer's voice cracked through the noise. "By strike or submission, fighter, finish it!" Still, Kyel did not move. The broken boy on the ground whimpered something too soft to hear. Then he rolled onto his back, throat exposed, in silent surrender. Kyel raised his blade and sheathed it. The crowd erupted in a chorus of jeers, some disappointed, others thrilled by the defiance. The announcer looked at the pitmaster in the viewing box, uncertain. Kyel turned and walked toward the gate. The guards opened it without a word. He passed them without a glance, and behind him, the whispers returned. Not from the crowd, from beneath. Darth Malvex stood in the shadow of the outer corridor, one level below the arena stands. He had entered through an unguarded service stairwell, cloaked in the Force, his presence buried beneath the noise of hundreds. But now, the moment had come. He lowered his hood. The guards stationed near the pit gate turned, startled by the figure that seemed to materialize from darkness. "Who the hell are—" The first man never finished the question. Malvex raised a single hand, and the guard's body lifted from the ground and snapped sideways, spine cracking like a branch. The second reached for his blaster. Too slow. A crimson blade ignited in Malvex's hand with a sharp snap hiss, casting blood-colored light across the stone walls. With one fluid motion, he drove it through the second man's chest. Screams followed, confused at first, then real. Panic spread like fire. Malvex stepped into the lower corridor, cutting down slavers as they stumbled from back rooms and vaults. Sparks flew. Alarms tried to activate, but the Force shorted their circuits before they could sound. By the time he reached the arena's open gate, 10 men lay dead in his wake. Kyel stood at the threshold. He didn't flinch. He didn't reach for his weapon. Their eyes met across the sand. One boy, battered and breathing but unbroken. One Sith, cloaked in death and silence. Neither moved. The torches guttered, as if dimmed by the weight of the moment. Then Malvex spoke. His voice was low, controlled, measured. "Do you know what you are?" Kyel stared back, eyes hollow and bright. "I know what I'm not." Malvex stepped closer. "You're not meant to die here, not for sport, Not for scraps. The boy didn't move. You felt me, Malvex said. And I felt you, the fracture in the force, the wound that does not close. Kyle's hand flexed near his blade, not in fear but readiness. Malvex noticed and gave a small nod of approval. I've killed every man who put you in chains, the Sith Lord continued. There'll be ash by morning. Kyle blinked, then asked, If I go, do I ever have to be weak again? Malvex stepped forward and offered his hand. His voice, for the first time, held something almost like warmth. Never. Kyle looked down at the outstretched hand, then at the bodies behind him, the pit, the blood, the noise. Then he stepped forward and took it. And in that moment, the force shifted. As if the galaxy itself had drawn a breath it didn't know it was holding.